I had a moment the other day, guys, with my wife that I wanted to bring to the podcast stage because, as many of you likely do, you probably send, memes or reels, maybe clips to your partner through social media, and maybe you assess the political landscape and kind of talk from time to time about what is going on. And as the young people say, I may have crashed out the other day when discussing with my wife about the state of Democratic leadership and both leaders of Congress. So I'm talking about Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. And I think I'm going to have a little bit more mellowed response here, but we will see as we get into some of the details how I reacted or how I will react. But it was overall just discussed with the state of Democratic leadership. And what I'm going to get to here in this video is what I think is ultimately the main problem with Democratic leadership in the Democratic Party. And I think it can be summarized really in one video in what we have seen with the passing of Trump's budget bill. So this reverse Robin Hood bill, and I'm calling it that, guys, because it took resources from the poor and the working class and overwhelmingly transferred them to the richest amongst us. It cut Medicaid by $1 trillion, which will contribute to an estimated 17 million Americans losing their health coverage. They took away food assistance from an estimated 22 million families. And studies have now came out, that found that the average family is set to lose nearly $150 per month due to the gutting of SNAP. So that is essential money for families to feed their children, for instance. And Republicans are gutting these programs for those in need to supplement increased ICE raids. And ICE, guys, is now going to be funded bigger than many countries' entire military budget. So that's how much money is going into ICE. We put even more money into the national defense budget in this bill. And then obviously it wouldn't be a Republican budget bill in present day without tax cuts for the rich. And all of this is going to come together. So even though they are eliminating safety nets that help those who are in the most need in this country, they are still exploding the deficit. So they're cutting programs, yet pulling off the amazing feat of still exploding the deficit, largely due to tax cuts for the rich. So during this monumental time in history, when this bill was set to be passed and then was ultimately got passed, right? It went through Congress and then was ultimately signed by Donald Trump, the largest wealth transfer in history. This is how Democrats in the House and Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries decided to fight back. So the caption of this photo reads, "Protecting your healthcare is as American as baseball, motherhood, and apple pie." First and foremost, I would just prefer my beloved sport of baseball. The one that I watch daily and grew up playing was not brought into this tomfoolery and was not sullied by this embarrassment of a photo. I think Jon Stewart kind of roasted this photo the best on The Daily Show. I think it was spot on. He basically, guys, and I think you can see this as well, he compared this photo to like a little league kid waiting to get picked up from practice. What I see is I see myself when I was in like T-ball or coach pitch or machine pitch and taking those pictures you take before this season starts. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to have a good season. Maybe I can hit one over the fence this season. It is just like, I don't know who is running the PR department or who's working with Hakeem Jeffries on things like this, but thinking this is a good idea is insane to me. And bigger picture, guys, are the Democrats serious? Like, is this what you have? Is this the fight you have to give us? And this is how you stand up with like a little fun idiom and a photo op as the leader of the House of Democrats, or the leader of the House for the Democrats as this historically atrocious bill is passing, and I just think this picture encapsulates the problem with the modern day Democratic Party and Democratic leadership. They look incredibly weak, right? And out of touch with the general public. They don't get things done. They have been in modern history since basically I've been following politics and I've been born. They have been largely unable to get tangible things done or fight back, even when they are in power. Yet when Republicans are in power, they seem to not have any issues getting a lot of things passed. So I think also what you have, excuse me, there is Democratic voters just tired of the excuses. Why is it when Republicans are in power, they can get things done, but somehow when Democrats are in power, although their policy positions objectively poll more popular, right, you somehow can't manage to get things done? It is exhausting, and I think the Democratic Party is just done with it. For instance, I remember when Biden was in office, they complained about not being able to pass something because of the parliamentarian. It's like, what are we talking about? Why Republicans will just steamroll policies right over Democrats, often with minimal resistance or even compliance, as we saw with some Democratic representatives, voting for certain cabinet confirmations. So, and also, guys, just Hakeem Jeffries, the fight is before the bill. The bill is now law. So you holding a baseball bat, talking about trying to combat it, the time for that was before, not now that Trump is president and this bill was basically inevitable once he was elected into office. Now, they are also, Democrats at large, they're unable to organize and have a clear platform message. Sorry for my pause there, guys. I'm not trying to go full crash out. That's saved for off the air and for my wife. But they're unable to organize and provide any level of clear platform or message to the American people outside of just resisting Trump. And that may have worked back in 2020 and got Biden elected due to the chaos that was COVID. But there is not COVID currently. So the question is, when you don't have boogeyman or, to point to, what are you actually offering that is going to be better than the present day? And I think that's what a lot of Democratic voters are thinking. And I think that is the pulse of the Democratic Party at large right now. To be clear, I think the platform that the Republicans have right now is unproductive at best and inhumane, to put it more accurately, but at least they are offering a clear, direct, anti-immigrant platform and just owning the libs, hating the Democrats. At least that platform is blatantly clear in what they're going for. But the Democratic Party, I couldn't even tell you, honestly, and I'm someone who follows politics consistently, I don't know what mainstream Democrats are fighting for. I have no idea, right? I can tell you what progressives are fighting for because they make their policies clear, but I have no idea what establishment Democrats want for the country whatsoever. They don't make their arguments. They don't make it clear. And if I, someone who follows politics consistently, aren't even hearing their messaging, then how is someone who, is in a much more strained situation, who maybe doesn't have the freedom or doesn't have the interest in politics to the level that I do, how are they supposed to know what the Democrats are offering, right? Now, guys, at least one thing that has happened recently, and maybe this will move past the Democrats blindly thinking about bipartisanship, is Trump flat out came out on stage and said he hated half the country. He said he hated Democrats. So at least he finally said it. We're 100% clear. He has no interest in working with Democrats, guys. He hates us. He always has. That has been the truth from the beginning. So stop with the fairy tale ideas of bipartisan, bills being passed. What the Republicans will do is they will pass it no matter what the other side wants. I wish the Democrats had a little bit more fight for policies that were actually popular, because you have that on your side. But this leads me kind of to my next point. just hating the other side, right? Like the Republicans do the just owning the libs. I just hate liberals. And that may work for Republican voters, whatever. You vote because you hate liberals. Great. That doesn't work for Democratic voters. That is tired. I think that worked. An anti-Trump vote worked in 2020, but Democrats are asking for more. We want like something that is addition to just hating this boogeyman or you just being better than the alternative because you're not actively, putting people in these deportation camps, for instance. You're not raiding graduation ceremonies and restaurants, right? That's all fine. But what are you actually doing? What policies are you actually offering, and how are you making it clear to the general public? And I think there's an added layer of frustration among Democrats right now when the most popular politicians in the country are clearly in the progressive flank. So Bernie Sanders, AOC, they're some of the most popular politicians across the country. And we just saw what happened in New York City with Zoran on an incredibly progressive platform winning that mayoral primary. And guys, the progressive platform actually provides a clear vision for the country. And that's what makes it really unique to like what I said with mainstream corporate Democrats who seem to just want more status quo. But despite these clear strategic openings for the Democratic Party, guys, the reality is they're going to keep serving their super PAC and dark money donors in the same way that Republicans serve their ultra wealthy mega donors and corporations. So they are going to refuse to craft their party message around the progressive policies that would catapult them back into favorability until some of these corporate Democrats are primaried. And guys, at the end of the day, the bribery and the money and the corruption and the corrupt money in politics is really why neither party actually puts the average American first. And in terms of the Democratic Party, guys, as a whole, I think that's where the frustration is coming from. It feels like they're not delivering and they're not the party of the working class, right? They're party of whatever their donors want them to do, despite their left-leaning politicians providing a clear vision and being incredibly popular. They are constantly somehow blamed for the reason that Democratic popularity is going down. So it's mind-boggling. But don't worry, Chuck Schumer, leader of the Senate, was able to come to the rescue.
Mr. President, I raise a point of order against page 1, lines 3 to 5 of the pending amendment, which violates Section 313B1A of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974.
The point of order is sustained. The text will be stricken.
So that there was the Honorable Chuck Schumer, yes, changing the name of the bill. So not the contents in the bill, not how it will impact his constituents at all. None of that was addressed. But yes, changing the name of the bill, that is what he was able to accomplish in that video. So such valor and bravery and strength there, right? But guys, all kidding aside, this is just more proof of the disconnect that Democratic leadership, whether it's Hakeem Jeffries, whether it's Chuck Schumer, but the level of disconnect there currently is between Democratic leadership and the American public right now. Because for them, that photo and changing the name of the bill, they think those are like great choices, but the rest of us generally look at it and laugh and think it's a joke, and it fundamentally doesn't address the issues, more importantly. But once again, we have this irony because these same people are blaming the far left or progressives as the reason that the Democratic Party is currently underwater. They're not blaming themselves and the actual leadership and the people who have been in establishment positions for years and decades and have done insane things like in 2020 kneeling with Kente Cloth scarves after George Floyd was murdered. That was another absolute embarrassment. So we have all of this happening, all coming together to, I think, lead to this frustration. And also, I think just the kind of last straw that broke the camel's back, let's say, was just losing to Trump for a second time. A politician, guys, who if you support him, that's great. He has objectively basically never had above a 50% approval rating his entire time in office, including his first time. So he's not nationally popular. He never has been. He has very strong support among his base, but he is not a popular president, and most people do not like him. Yet the Democrats seem to fumble the bag and lose time and time again when this guy is up, or at least twice at this point. And I think the second time broke a lot of people and has led to this frustration. But to finish this topic, after I kind of had the crash out, which was a little less PG rated, let's say, with my wife. She's always my sounding board. Thank you so much. We go back and forth. But I wanted to see what the numbers actually said, because is it just my frustration, or is there overall disapproval with Democratic leadership right now? And the data overwhelmingly shows, and you guys can see it right now, there is only 37% favorability right now with the Democratic Party, and nearly 60% are unfavorable. Those are pretty heinous numbers, guys. And to me, it's signaling that the party is clearly in need of a change and new leadership, particularly because Republican voters, guys, do not feel the same internally about their own leadership. Overwhelmingly, they still have a pretty high favorability for their elected representatives, despite how me and you may feel about Trump's presidency. Trump is largely losing popularity with like independents and young people coming up, for instance. But I want to have a little message here to my Republican friends who may be listening. So whether you're listening just to see the other side and have an open dialogue, or you're hate watching, I don't care. Welcome either way. But I want to make this point clear. Many Democratic voters are just as frustrated with Democratic politicians as you guys are. Okay, that shows out in the numbers. You can't get only 37% favorability if that is only Republicans saying, that they're not favorable. If that 37, is only, let's phrase it this way. Back up, this will make more sense. If nearly 60% of the country is saying that the Democratic Party is unfavorable, that includes many Democratic voters as well. Right? So a lot of us, including myself, we share in some of your frustration. I want to be clear, though, why I settle and many of us settle on Democratic is because we think it's better than the present day authoritarian rule we are seeing set in under the Trump administration. But we agree on disliking certain political figures. But I want to also be clear, Republicans and progressives vastly disagree in the approach to solving the problems and addressing some of the anger we have with society. So whereas Republicans, guys, focus on immigration, taxes, social safety net programs like Medicaid, Social Security, food stamps as being the crux of the nation's problems, progressives think the path forward includes things like universal health care, so nobody dies in the richest country in the world due to not being able to access the care they need. And it would also be a lot cheaper. Every other developed country operates under that system at far less cost to the citizen. Progressives also want things like affordable housing so that rent hikes do not leave people unhoused, and so that young families can more easily be homeowners for the first time. So right now, guys, the average age for first-time home buyers is at a high at nearly 40 years old. And the average age of all home buyers is sitting around 56. So the age of home ownership has just been pushed further and further ahead. There's no Republican plan necessary to address that, but progressives would want to address and have affordable housing for the average citizen. Universal paid family leave, right? So newborns can get the love and care they need from their families without fear of being fired from their work or needing to go back, like a mom giving birth and immediately needing to go back to work because they work on an hourly wage, for instance. Increasing the minimum wage to a livable wage that allows individuals to live a life of dignity. Lifting the minimum wage, guys, also increases the wage for all. And right now, if the minimum wage kept up with productivity, the minimum wage would be over $20 an hour. Okay. But our wages have been stagnant as wealth has continued to transfer to the top. Taxing the rich more is also a progressive policy to benefit society as large and address the inequities that we currently have and redistribute resources. Taxing the rich guys could also fund programs that would benefit society at large. And research also said that taxing the rich and this idea of rich flight is largely overblown and is basically a myth. It only changes things on the edges, but increasing taxes does not have this huge, all rich people take their money and just leave. That hasn't borne out to be the truth. And then obviously things, guys, like robust climate initiatives, which would create more jobs while addressing the inevitability of our finite resources when it comes to oil and fossil fuels. So yes, we may hate the same politicians to a certain degree, but our approaches to addressing problems are where there is a drastic parting of the waters. But I wanted to lay out the progressive plan to see if maybe one or two of you may kind of jump on board with that. I do think those policies are better for all. Now, last thing, guys, the 2026 midterms are quickly approaching, and it's going to be very interesting to see if the Democrats pivot and lean into more progressive ideology. It has borne out to be successful in the New York City race, and it is shown to lead to the most popular politicians and join the progressive caucus, or will they continue to serve things, super PACs, APACs, and the donor class and face potentially huge primary opposition when their names appear in the next re-election cycle? Thank you for watching and being part of a growing progressive community. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the time, check out some of my other episodes you can see around me. Thank you.